ever beyond, 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 beyond. Greetings, sisters and brothers, and welcome to Ever Beyond. Once again, it's the 21st of October. I can't believe that it's the 21st of October 2012. That's 2 months away from the day. Today, I'm so honoured. I'm so stoked. I've had some great guests, but this one tops it for me. Tonight, I have a man who wrote a book. It was his thesis years ago, and it found its way onto the web and uncovered a whole section of the solar history it completely blew me away. It was called the Terra Papers, as in terra firma, the Latin word for Earth, and it described a story which actually turned out to be quite close to the story behind Star Wars. There was a very close connection to it, and I read this book and I thought, that's fantastic. And then who's this guy? And I discovered a few YouTube videos of him, and I thought, wow, this is even better. He's talking about Ra and all these other things. So, and then he disappeared. And a few weeks ago, I heard him on Soul Connections radio, and I thought, wow, I gotta speak in. So I called in and said hello and asked him on my show. So tonight, we're going to have a really, really deep and interesting conversation, because I would like to I'm very honoured to speak to my guest, Robert Morningsky. Hello, Robert. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good, sir. Thank you for allowing me to be on with you. Very kind words. Thank you.
Oh, I haven't even started yet. So we have a chat room on Wolf Spirit Radio. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio, and we have a chat room, and it's starting to fill up as the word is getting about. And we're very pleased. If people want to make a connection, do type a question in uppercase letters, because basically the screen is that far away from I can't see things written in lowercase, but if they are in uppercase, they'll stand out, and I'll be able to relay them to our guest. So if you wish to have a question, there we go. We have a chat room, which is in wolfspiritradio.com/wolf chat. So, yes, howl. And my girlfriend is on there. That's Wolf Baby. So we have this whole wolf theme here. So I hope you'll feel most at home and comfortable, Robert. So, where do we start? Would you like to just lay out for the audience? Can we start with the Terra Papers and then move on from there, because that was very early on in your life, wasn't it?
Yes, actually, it was in my college years that I wrote the Terra Papers. Let's see how I can start here. When I was a child, I was growing up with my grandfather on his ranch. I grew up, it was an amazing place. It was a sanctuary for Native Americans from any tribe who needed a place to go, or they wanted to go and talk and share. They would come to my granddad's ranch, and he had several thousand acres. And I grew up there with them. My real father had been killed in an accident, and my mother stayed on the reservation. She was Hopi, he was Apache. That's very much like the Capulets and the Montagues getting together, and that wasn't supposed to happen. The Hopi are very, very feminine-oriented, and the Apache very masculine-oriented. And so I was left on the ranch with my granddad, and he would take me out and he would show me things, teach me all those, beginning path warrior steps and those things. And he came home actually one day, and we were invited to go to a gathering in northern Arizona. And it was in this gathering that I heard a story from my grandfather and some of his friends, a story that they had encountered a being from another world, a being from the stars. They ultimately referred to him as the Star Elder. Well, I grew up with this story, but I have to tell you that in Native America, particularly in the Southwest, we grew up with many, many stories about beings who have descended from the stars, who have taught us the ways of humankind, how to be warriors. In the Apache world, we have the Gons. In the Navajo world, we have the Ye'ibiche, the Hopi, we have the Kachinas. And so it was not unusual to hear a story about a star being who descended to teach or to spend time with human beings, with people, everyday people. So it wasn't until I got to college many, many years later, and I think anyone who goes to university, particularly when you come from a different culture and you're suddenly exposed to all of the, I don't know how to call it, the Western civilized ways, that you begin to wonder, is the way that I was raised, or the beliefs that I had, the traditions, are they real? Were they fantasy? I didn't grow up with the typical Western Christian and those kinds of values. I didn't know what football was. I didn't know what baseball. I didn't know what these things were. So when I got to college, I began to question the stories that I grew up with, the Hopi, the Apache stories. And one of the stories that had always stuck with me and inspired me was the story about the Star Elder. So I spent my years in college and eventually ended up with a degree in, of all things, a double major in mathematics and religion. Mathematics I was fascinating. I loved, I thought I would be an engineer, but I always wanted the answers. And I think like most everyone, why are we here? What's life about? What's up there in the stars? And so with my second major in religion, I decided to look at some of the ancient stories. And of course, one of the first things you encounter are the Egyptian stories. I mean, it's very, very prevalent,
right.
Very prominent.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at the Egyptian hieroglyphs, and the way I was raised, we would go out and I would learn to read the petroglyphs, because we have numerous glyphs all over the Southwest. And my grandfather, my two grandfathers actually, my mother's dad, my dad's dad, they would show me how to read the glyphs. This is what it meant. This is how you look at it. And I found that when I started looking at the Egyptian hieroglyphs, that the standard translation, Mr. Wallace Budge being the lead, and others, I found myself reading it in a different fashion and they were close, they were similar, but I had a better reading. Ultimately, it led me to the Mesopotamian, the Sumerian, and all these other ancient cultures, and I actually found some of the words that my grandfather said the Star Elder gave him. I actually found them in these ancient cultures, and I was shocked. I said, my goodness, and maybe this is right. So I started to look at, the oldest cultures, the oldest traditions I could find, the oldest languages, and I did in fact find a character like Ra, which is, it's an amazing character. In the Hopi world, in the Apache world, one of the words that we use for the sun is Ra. And of course, the Egyptians use Ra. I found it in other cultures in the Far East. I found it down in Australia when I traveled there. Ultimately, I put together a thesis, and I submitted it, and I called it Terra, the Hidden History of Planet Earth. I submitted it to my religious studies professors, and I was promptly flunked. No. Oh. Yes, sir. No. They said, no, this is not the way it's going to be. This is absolutely incorrect. Doesn't matter what the facts are. Doesn't matter what the linguistic studies are. This doesn't work. Well, I was very, very fortunate that there was a professor in the history department, and she stepped up, and she essentially said, look, just because you take all these puzzle pieces and Robert has put it together in a different fashion than you have, it doesn't mean he's wrong. He has constructed the pieces were valid. The story was valid, using the pieces that I had. And thank goodness she stepped up and they allowed me to go ahead and receive my second major. But I wrote the Terra Papers as a thesis essentially for myself and to show that my grandfather and his stories about the Star Elder, that they were correct for the most part. Certainly there were a lot of pieces that I couldn't justify, that I had not had time to research. Then after that, I actually was approached by some people and said, well, there are speakers out there talking about star beings, etc. And at that time, it was the UFO circuit, UFO and extraterrestrials. So I approached one of the more prominent speakers at a conference, and he had actually begun to touch on Native Americans and some of the star beings, and I approached him and I said, listen, this is my story, and I gave him a very brief outline, and he rejected it. He said, no, and wouldn't you know, within a few months, he's released a new book, and there's my stuff.
Oh, no!
Right. So, I again became very disillusioned, and I spent several years, wondering what am I going to do, and I found that even during my college years, I was able to cover some expenses I would put on shows. I would talk to people and tell them the stories of Native America. I would show them some of the dances. I would tell them some of the stories of how you grow up. I got grants to go to various public schools around the country and teach the kids, some of our stories and our legends and that. And I ended up doing documentaries. I was on some TV series. I did some movies. And so being Native American and staying true to the tradition and telling the stories allowed me to survive. I could make a living. In 1991, I was given the opportunity to take my dance troupe to Australia. And we were performing there in an international festival for 10 days. And during that time, there was a young man who approached me, and he had heard, and I don't know how, but he had heard a story about the Terra Papers. And he came, he asked for an interview, and he visited in the hotel, and we talked, and ultimately he published a very, very nice article in what is now known as Nexus magazine. This is
I knew it was Robert Duncan, wasn't it?
Yes.
Beautiful guy. Yeah.
And so next thing I know, I'm being asked all kinds of questions. I ended up spending the better part of 3 years in Australia, traveling down there. I did multiple tours. I danced with the Aborigines, toured with them, toured with the Maoris. And then when I came back, I suddenly found myself being courted by UFO conferences galore, left and right, and just constantly asking about the Terra Papers and the Star Elder. Well, I didn't have a Star Elder story per se, so I quickly put down some notes and produced another paper on the Star Elder story. In the process, the original Terra Papers thesis, I don't know, was in the storage room, who knows, they sort of disappeared. And so I had to go back and try to reconstruct as best as I could the original Terra Papers. And after a while, I'm trying to think, I think it was in 1996, I did 51 appearances in 52 weeks. I was traveling all across the globe, all across the United States. And those two, the Star Elder Papers and the Terra Papers, were essentially what launched my career on the speaker circuit. But I used the speaker circuit whenever we went to go visit in a certain city or in a certain area. I used that venue to allow me to dance, for example, at the Cahokia Mounds, or to dance at some of the other sacred sites or ruins around the United States, in Mexico, and in different places. So about the turn of the century, 1999, I was granted permission to dance on the top of the Great Pyramid. to the best of our knowledge, and we have the documentation, we were the first ones granted permission to dance on the top of the Great Pyramid.
I'd like to ask you a question, Robert, about that.
Certainly.
There are legends, or whatever they say. There's a story that if you stand at the top of the Great Pyramid, you can't see anything around you. That the ground drops away just the right angle, so you can all you appear to be on is 1 square meter in the top of on a very high up. Is that right?
Absolutely. You know, it is a phenomenon that I have seen again at the temple in Teotihuacan, but I think the Great Pyramid is perhaps the most extraordinary. When I climbed to the top, and you can see pictures of me in full regalia, I had 32 pounds in my back, and I scaled to the top in full regalia.
Wow.
When you get to the top, and at that time, this is before they have kind of fixed it up, leveled it off, and there was one block that sat at the very top, and it was maybe 1 meter square. And you get on the top and you look down, and I swear it looks like it is straight down, if not bending inwards. It is a phenomenon that I've never experienced that anywhere else to any such degree. It looks like it is straight down on either side. It looks like you're on a 3 by 3 foot straight pillar. It is extraordinary.
Wow.
And then to look out, and as the sun was coming up, and to watch the airplanes at the Cairo airport taking off below you, and to look at the Sphinx, and it looks like a little plushy toy down, down below you. It's 500, what did I forget, 500 and some odd feet in the air. And to dance on a 3 by 3 block with these sides straight down, I felt like I was dancing on the head of a pin. I was in the clouds. I've never had a more extraordinary experience in my life than to be dancing on the top of the Great Pyramid. Wow. And again, there's a whole other story. I could go on for an hour about that, but one of the things that, it opened the doors in 1999 to a visit to Switzerland, and I went to go do a conference there. And as I was doing the conference, as I was preparing for it, I arrived there the day before the conference was to start, and that night at 3 o'clock in the morning, I received a phone call in my room, and I was asked to come down to the lobby. I went down to the lobby, and I met these individuals, these very mature, very, extraordinary. You could tell these were like very powerful men. I mean, they were very confident in their demeanor. And but the lobby was absolutely vacant. It was empty. No one in sight. They were supposed to be preparing the tables, the conference equipment, all of that stuff, and yet the hotel was empty. Well, again, long story short, I was approached a couple years later and asked if I would be willing to work with some individuals who had access to some scrolls and some books and things that were not in the public domain. But of course, and believe it or not, there is such a thing as a confidentiality act, a contract, where if you see this, you can't reveal, et cetera, et cetera. It was business. It was business. And as long as I didn't speak of these things, they would show these papers, these texts, these actually photographs of some of the inscriptions in Egypt and other places. And would I offer my opinion or my assessment on what this was? It was essentially comparative religious studies. Okay, you've seen what happened in Australia, you've seen what happened in New Zealand, in Egypt, and Mexico. Now, we're going to give you this Templar material. How does that fit in? Does it fit in? One of the things I've always felt that had to be true is every piece in what is a global truth. See, that word is so dangerous, the word truth.
Oh, yeah.
If it's true, then I should be able to take a piece from Egypt, Samaria, Africa, the Americas, Sweden, and put them all together. They should fit. There should be a consistent story underneath. How many cultures can you look at? And there are so many parallels, from the dances and the words to the stories themselves. Maybe the names of the characters are different, But across the globe and throughout history, there are parallels that are far beyond coincidence. Cultures and peoples who never had contact with each other, and yet they have similar stories. And I was given an opportunity to look at information, for example, like I said, with the Templar Knights, and how does that fit in with anything you might have learned in Australia? How does that fit in with anything you might have learned in the Americas? And essentially I became a consultant, so to speak, for these private research groups. And I was able to acquire bits and pieces that were phenomenal. They made my story, the story of the Star Elder, the Terra Papers, much clearer, and added pieces that I couldn't explain before. And then in about 2002, I was given a choice. You can stay and learn, again, under all these confidentiality concepts, and we will show you more, but you cannot release any material. It must be approved. If anything is ever released, it must be approved. And how am I going to do that in the public eye? And I can't. So in 2003, I made my last public appearance in San Francisco, and I pretty much I dropped out of sight.
Disappeared off the screen.
I'm sorry?
Disappeared off the screen.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yes, sir. I mean, but I have to tell you, I'm sure that there are people that can say that it was selfish, but I was able to, with my family, I was able to travel to different sites. I was given different materials. We were able to focus on putting pieces together from all over the globe. We got information from elders. We got information from actually people who I would call scientists and experts who are behind the scenes, and they don't want, they don't, for example, it's a hypothetical. I will insist this is a hypothetical. A man from NASA who has information, but he can't speak about it. And it threatens his position, and it's certainly anti the party line of NASA. But he contacts them, and he says, oh, listen, what would you think about this piece? There it is. You don't know who we got it from. I said, okay, that's fine. And I received information from scientists and historians and archaeologists and native elders and just, common everyday individuals who had these experiences, or they had discovered something on their property, or they had an old scroll or a book or something. And I was very fortunate. And a few years ago, there was a man who stepped forward. I will call him El Vastago. And El Vastago appeared, and he said, I have a group of elders who I work with, and they would like to talk to you about some of the things that they have. And, okay, so I was able to, through El Vastago, I was able to submit some of my stories and said, look, this is what I have found. And they would say, well, how did you get there? And I have 23 dictionaries right here at my desk, and I go through them, pour through them every day. And I produced a couple of stories that I guess really captured their attention, and they granted me an audience. So I went, and they grilled me. They were elders who know. They ask you a direct question, you better give them a direct answer. There is no, you just can't pussyfoot around. You can't, you must answer.
Yep.
And I was very lucky. And they began to share more information with me. And as it turns out, well, this is another part of a whole other story, but the point is that periodically there is a time when they feel that perhaps the world is ready for some of these hidden elders and their wisdom stories to be presented to the world. And now, I'm going to preface this by saying that there is a lot of attention that has been put on the year 2012, primarily because of this Mayan calendar, Kwaupshikali is actually the name of the calendar. A lot of people don't know that. Kwaupshikali, the Mayan calendar, does not predict the end of the world. I cannot tell you how many Mayan elders have stepped forward to say that is not what it says. It actually says there is a fifth age that will begin on December 22nd. But that aside, and we can discuss it if you would like, but that aside, there was already a tremendous amount of attention being focused on the year 2012, whether justified or not, whether doom and gloom or actual prophecy. So much attention was being placed on 2012. The elders said, maybe if the population of the world, of the globe, is actually looking for something, that suggests that maybe they would be open to receiving some of the wisdom. Again, this is not a 2012 prophecy the elders would come out and release the wisdom. This is cart before the horse. These are the elders saying, well, look, if they're looking for something, maybe we should give them something. So I began to work with them. I was very fortunate. They felt that my experience with, on the speaker circuit and my presentations, that perhaps I could present some of the material. So we began to work together, and I said, okay, this is how I would present the story. This is how I would tell it. And they approved. They had to approve everything. And one of the things that happened to me, when I wrote the Terra Papers, I was looking for the hidden history of planet Earth. What I didn't know, and what these elders have helped me to uncover, a revelation for me, was that the hidden history of planet Earth is actually the hidden history of womankind. I had no idea that that's where it was going to go. The primary, the pivotal, the central piece to the lost history of our world, the hidden history, the suppressed history, the secret history, is womankind. So, back a few years ago, I started to put together, well, this is how I would present the story. But because it is the lost history of womankind, I believe that a woman should present it, that I would be the second. I would help, I would write, I would present, but I felt that a woman should take the lead. And at that time, there was a lady of fire in my life, and we started working together. We were going to present the material. We were going to take advantage of the 2012. Everybody wants to know. Let us begin to present in 2012. And we were working hard, and we had an agenda. It was going to be good. And a couple of years ago, I lost. Excuse me. Anyway, a couple of years ago, I lost my Lady of Fire, and frankly, I just, I said, oh yeah, that's it, forget it. This really has to be, I think, presented by a woman. I would support absolutely the whole concept of the lost history of womankind, but I didn't have. So frankly, I gave up. I said,
I'm
forget
so
it.
sorry, Robert. I can feel your the grief on this, and how it would, just feel like the whole thing was turned over, like the whole apple cart.
Yeah, yes. I just the lost history of womankind, and I lost the Lady of Fire was just. It was just devastating. I said, like I said, forget it. And I actually turned over all my work. I turned over the authority on my websites, on my papers and everything. I handed it over to Elvastigo, and I gave it to the elders, and I said, here it is. I thank you, and I appreciate everything you've done, and I really, at any rate, I just gave up, and so I disappeared again. And a few months ago, Elvastigo, my family, the elders, they said, look, I don't have my grandfather. I don't have my Lady of Fire. But they're there, and they would want you to continue. And the elders have been very, very kind. They've been very supportive. Elvastigo, my family, I couldn't do it without them. And so I said, okay, all right, let's trust to the wind. Let's trust that if I don't have someone there presenting the material at my side, maybe I can inspire some woman who is out there, or a group of women that are out there, to step up. And you know, I will show you, I will teach you, I will give you the wisdom, and you have to make it happen. You have to go out there and do something, you know, with all of this. And so I have to say that when I was persuaded to come back, in the beginning I wanted to temper some of what I wanted to say, and, you know, kind of go in there gently, you know, not rock the boat too heavily. And I said this time, I said, well, you know what, if I'm going to go in there, I'm going to go guns blazing. I'm going to go shooting every arrow that I can. And I'm going to go for the jugular.
We're ready for you.
You know, I am absolutely astonished at the extraordinary positive response I've gotten. I am so thankful. I know that the elders are correct. My family is extraordinary. They were right, and my Lady of Fire and my grandfather are also right. You know, I had no idea. I am getting emails from all over the globe, from Africa, from the Middle East, from Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Norway, every country you can imagine. I've only gotten 2 or 3 very negative emails, but everybody has been so incredibly supportive, even though I am saying things that, I mean, they're what I call golden principles of the civilized world. And I've criticized them. I said, no, look, this doesn't make any sense. And the response has been phenomenal. And I consider myself very, very fortunate. Well, here I am, you know. And I'm speaking to you, and I'm speaking with Christy and with others, and people are calling in, and I thank you, sir. Thank you, Christy. Thank you to all your listeners. I am so honored that I can tell you what I think, and it's understandable, and people are, you know, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
You're so welcome. You have no idea how much you're loved here. You know, there's sympathy and blessings and kudos coming in from the chat room. It's just beautiful. I can feel, you know, I know personally a lot of the people who are listening, and you know, we're just really, really attentive to you, and it's such a beautiful experience, and thank you for being so open, and thank you for coming back out. Really, we're ready for you. We're ready for the, you know, whatever you say, go for it.
Well, again, thank you, and I apologize. It kind of went on and on there about.
No. It's all relevant. It's all relevant.
Yeah.
So.
Well. Yes, sir.
Well, let's yeah. So this is a half hour, and so that's good. And I just want to take a little moment to remind everybody this is a listener donated station. There's a donate button on the bottom right, and in order for us to continue, we rely on your donations to keep the station going. I mean, we haven't got great costs. It's, you know, just enough to keep the website going and the stream, and none of us get paid, and we just are doing it literally for the love and the service, because, you know, Robert, we know you're part of our soul collective. Okay, I do this thing, and I recognize. There's something that maybe Christy didn't even tell you, but I recognize soul ray energies. Are you aware of the 7 rays?
I've only heard of them, sir. I'm not as familiar as maybe I should be, but
it's I
can say I've only heard of them.
It probably meshes with your your ideas of spirit anyway, but it's the idea that there's like certain flavors or groupings of things, of colors and of musical notes, and that our souls have frequency, and that frequencies they're the same frequencies as we play on the guitar or on the piano.
Well, actually, I agree.
Yeah.
That is, in fact, one of the aspects of science that I can actually agree with. And I mean, as I'm sure what you're basically saying is, I mean, all life is frequency.
Yes.
And there are various forms, various, variations and speeds and frequencies. And as we talked actually before the program, I mean, music and dance is such an extraordinary part of our existence that I honestly believe if we didn't have music, if we didn't have dance, if we didn't have that ability to express ourselves, humankind wouldn't be here. We'd have done ourselves in a long, long time ago.
And well, actually, that brings us to the subject of dance, because I've heard you talk about doing the dances, and you were talking about this before the show. For me, when I got these terrible feet, and I'm rather overweight, and so dancing is it's hard work for me. But I do love expressing myself in frequency in dance, because it's subsonic. You can't hear it. But if you were to watch somebody dance and speed up the frequencies, you'd hear a song. And then I've been looking at Scottish country dancing. We have I live in Scotland, and we have these things they call ceilidhs, or session. And the dances, what I can see, I was like watching them with a kind of slightly trippy way of looking at them, and the patterns that when you make the dances, it's sometimes like pairs of people opposite each other, and groups of people standing in lines, and the way that you interact with the people form those things which we call the Celtic knots.
Yes, okay, I can see the patterns.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
yes, I'm sorry.
So does that connect with the tradition of dancing that you hold?
Yes, indirectly, but at the same time, the concept is essentially the same. In 1991 and 1992, I was able to go down to Australia. In 1991, I took my dance troupe, the Mock Show dance troupe, and we, again, whole other story, because I sort of bent some rules in order for it to happen. But I did have a circle in which I invited 13 Maori dancers from New Zealand, 13 Aborigine dancers from Australia, and my dancers, and we all went into circle. And over the next couple of days, what was extraordinary was we found that the beats that we kept were extremely alike, and the steps were simply small variations of each other, and the circle and some of the patterns that we did in the owl dance or the round dance, that here was my mathematical degrees popping up and going like, look at this. There's actual, almost a mathematical formula. There is a pattern to the dance. When we are dancing, if I am dancing by myself, for example, at one of the sacred sites, I wear deer toes on my leggings, or you can wear bells at some ceremonies and dances. And by dancing and stamping on the ground, you can create a beat. And it's remarkable to me. Dancing it's a passion for me. There is mathematics in it. There is music in it. There is rhythm in it. There is passion in it. There is life. Two of the principles that I grew up with when I was learning to dance was that your dance is what you do with your body. When you go to work, for example, during the day, what you are doing when you're at work, that's your dance. When you come home at night, or when you're out with friends, when you're out by yourself hiking in the desert or climbing a mountain, that is part of your dance. Your body is the writing instrument. It's the painter's brush. It's the tool that you use to create music, art. That's just remarkable. Dance to me is passion. If I couldn't dance, I have to tell you, in 1986 I had surgery, and my doctors told me that I would never be able to dance again. A year later, I was dancing in a powwow, and I won first place. And the only reason I could do that is because I wanted to dance. If you want to dance, you can exceed with the limitations that your bodies impose on you. The other aspect that I grew up with, which is part of the lost history of womankind, in the Hopi world, life revolved around females, period. And there's a whole, again, history there. Everything is about the woman. The creator of heaven and earth was Spider Woman. The life in the village revolved around the woman. If a man and a woman married, he left his village and his family. He moved in with her. He took her family. His job was to give her the fire and the opportunity to become a bright dancing star in the heavens. Her sole task was to become a star in heaven. And one of the things that they would teach the Hopi women was, excuse me, if a man can't dance, then he can't dance. So women were taught that the man had to dance, and you had to prove yourself. Excuse me. In the old days, there were such a thing as courtship powwows, where you would go to a powwow, and a woman who went to a powwow with the man, she didn't have to go home necessarily with that same man. If she found a man who was dancing in the circle and he was, what do I want to say, more dynamic, more gracious, more beautiful, had greater endurance, she could go home with him. See, in the old days in the powwows, well, let's do it this way. In nature, which one of the birds has the brighter plumage, the male or the female? Well, it's always the male.
Always the male.
In nature in general, it's the male that has to do the dancing, the singing, the whistling. He has to have the bright colors. He has to prove himself to the female. The females are usually, a little more demure, a little more subtle, and they're not as bright. And so in the old ways, when we went to powwows, the men had to dress and dance. Like I said, my regalia weighed 32 pounds. I had to put on the face paint, makeup. I had to dance. In some of the powwows, in 3 days, you had to learn to dance for 32 hours to prove yourself. 32 hours of dancing in 3 days. Now, that's a little over 10 hours a day in full regalia. If the dancers are out there and you saw a woman and she looked like very attractive, you went and danced in front of her. You put on the moves, you did the spins, you did the twirls, and you danced and danced and danced in the hope that you would get her attention. If she found you worthy, then she would ask you out. You couldn't ask her out. She would ask you out, and then the relationship would begin, but it was entirely her call. And so dancing to me is life itself. I to this day, I run every day 2 miles a day at least to try to keep in shape so that I can go dance at the edge of the Grand Canyon, go dance in the ruins, go dance in the temples, go dance in the various circles. But that's the music I create. I wish I had talent like perhaps you have, with guitar and instruments. I would love to do that. But my music, what I create, is in the dance step. It's in the drum beat when my feet hit the ground. But if you can play the instruments, and I understand that you are an accomplished musician, God bless you, sir. I wish I had that ability.
Well, we have a mutual appreciation then. Let's put it that way. So wow. So that's the dancer in you, which is a great expression. Can I talk a little bit about your ray energies? Because this is what I like to do with my guests. I might have sprung it on you a little bit, but when people call into my show, I read their rays, and I've been kind of amassing a kind of dipping my toe in the ocean of energy and seeing the kind of soul energies and monad energies. That's the great spirit energies that have been calling in, basically, because I'm just asking, anybody who's listening, call into the show, and I read their rays. And there's basically, I've found that there are 3 spirit groups. One of them, we just call them 1, 2, and 3. Ray 1, Ray 2, Ray 3. And Ray 1 is about truth and will. Ray 1 is the ray of willpower. It's the first ray. It's everything's first. I have to be the first, the top of everything, like that. And then there's the second ray monad group, which is the love wisdom ray. That's like the kind of more feminine side of things, and that's involved in things like healing and teaching and nurturing and all of that kind of good stuff. and that's the spirit of the human race in general. And then I've found that there's a third ray monad group, and those are the people that you find in a police station, in a court of laws, where it's, in the politics and all of that sort of stuff. And it's like it's essentially they're part of an immense network. The third ray is the ray of networks and communications, so they're involved in like the big dark network, the big dark cabal, or what you might call the Dark Lodge.
Okay.
And so those are the three main groups. So I find that people who are in this truth-seeking, truth-telling group, or some people call them starseeds, and that's the group that you belong to, which is Ray 1 group, and a lot of the names that you might see in this alternative media genre have this energy, and you may feel a certain kind of brotherhood with certain ones of them. Like Christy as well. She doesn't know yet. I don't know if she's listening, but she doesn't know yet. But she's a part of this collective, and so the energies that you've got are rays 1 for the monad, which is the spirit ray. Your soul ray is the ray 2 of love, wisdom. So it's the whole heart energy and the love and the blessings and the healing that you give just by being in your soul, and that you have a personality ray of ray 4, which really is known as the ray of harmony through conflict, and it's like you can be a warrior or an artist, and sometimes both. It sounds like you are definitely that. You're born, that you were saying, even by your birth, you're in two conflicting worlds in the same body, and that would be a very soulful purpose, to bring together the Apache and the Hopi again. So that's a kind of that. This is what I talk about on my show, Robert. We were just and so you belong to a soul group. Actually, I know that there's one of them who's listening is another member of your group. She lives in California. And so so in my shows I describe it, and we say the highest one first. So you'd be described as a 1, 2, 4. So that translated to words is truth through love expressed as harmony. Does that feel right to you?
Okay, I'm listening and following the basic concept. Yeah. Again, it's unknown to me. So I'm working with your wording, and I can understand the premise. May I ask what the word monad is, as you use it, how you define it, where it came from? The point.
Okay, the whole teaching is ancient from the Himalayas, and it's got the monad is the. Okay, so we have the personality, which is how you would say. If it was out of balance, that's what we call the ego, that part of us that keeps us alive and on the planet, that part of our consciousness. That's kind of like the physical side of the consciousness. And then you have the soul energy, which is like the kind of interface between the Great Spirit and the personality. And the Great Spirit, or monad, it has the same relationship to the soul that the soul has to the personality, if you see what I mean. It's the next step up, as it were. So that so you probably have your own definition, words of what that is. Does that make sense to you now?
So essentially, if I understand, monad is the divine being.
Yeah.
Whatever that might be, divine power, whatever that might be.
Yeah, the one which we all part.
If it's Himalayan, can I assume that there is a Sanskrit root to it somewhere, Tibetan root?
I imagine so. Yeah.
Okay, and it's very interesting to me, because one of the ways in which I've been able to unlock so much of the ancient history, what has garnered me a very, again, honorable position with the elders was my study of words and linguistics. One of the things that I discovered is that in ancient Siberia, it really is the home of shamanism as we know it. There are numerous other practices around the globe that are shamanic in the sense that they practice disciplines and things that can be considered to be magic or sorcery and all that. The word shamanism and the basic concept of shamanism, the earliest traces of shamanism, come from ancient Siberia. And that was actually a pivotal piece. And so I ended up having to go after some Siberian dictionaries, Mongolian dictionaries, Ural-Altaic, the Turkic, Han Tungus. And, I mean, dictionaries that were $300, $400, $500 each in order to get them, very old dictionaries.
Wow.
But what I discovered is that the oldest language that there are traces of in Mongolia is a contemporary, and I will argue, and actually a precursor to the Proto-Indo-European.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to offer here in the what I'm referring to as the Semsia language, the lost shaman language of women, the word for the divine feminine. In 4% in our mortal world terms, it usually is almost universally represented with the sound of the letter M. It could be it could be Ma, it would end up being, mother and all these M-rooted words that refer to mother. And the spirit, let me correct myself, the supernatural ability of the divine feminine, that power that exceeds and is far beyond what mortals can do, that supernatural power of the divine, that divine sorcery, so to speak, is referred to in the Semsia language as Ide or Ude, Ude, Ide. It could be, it's some form of Ide. The great divine feminine supernatural power would be Om-Ide, okay? Om-Ide, oftentimes what happens in languages is that a suffix is added to a person of great power, a lord, a lady, a queen, a prince, a king. They would add a suffix, and the most commonly used suffix was the N, E-N, which meant, again, person of note, a prince, queen, princess, king, lord, chieftain. In the mortal world, a Semsia shamaness priestess, because she was able to practice the supernatural power of the divine, she would be referred to as Oman. Okay? Oman. Her power, her specific power, was her Ide. Therefore, the power of these high priestesses, of these shaman priestesses from the Semsia world, they would have been known as Oman-Ide. Oman-Ide is extremely close to monad, the word that you just used.
Ah.
And so you see, this is for me, when I look at the Semsia language and I've learned their basic concepts, I can bring it back and go, oh, look, this is, now I've never spoken to you before. I have no idea what this word is that you have used. However, by drawing on the Semsia language, I can say, okay, see, that makes sense. The shaman priestess, her power, her ability, her divine ability was Oman-Ide, and you're saying it's monad. We may have a different interpretation or perspective, but the root is, I will argue, it's essentially the same. So thank you. I mean, this is interesting.
Well, let's look at this. This is very interesting because a person who in these teachings, right? These teachings that I this is my tradition. You go up. You have these initiations, and we call it initiatory levels. Okay. and there's three main initiations for the humans, and this is, according to these teachings, what we're all going to be going through, what we all are going through. The first is where the personality is it recognizes that it's got a relationship with its soul. And so it has to get, first of all, it's got to get straight with everybody, and it's got to have a relationship and understands how to correct relationship. And then the second initiation is about your relationship between inside you with the heart and the solar plexus. So you come to this conclusion one day, it's like, why am I banging my head against the wall for this? You have this kind of realization that what you're doing is because it's being you're following everybody else's orders, and you decide what you want to do in your heart, and you do what you do in your heart. That's the second. And then the third is when you connect with your monad, right? And this is at that point your chakras are all cleansed, because these processes of initiation cleanse the chakras. And so somebody who has shamanic power, this Om power that you're talking about, would be connected with the monad. So they would be called monadically aligned. So there's a monad, or manadi, or manadic. Is that right?
Yes, I think there's a parallel here.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to you, there are some parallels to some of the ceremonies and what we would call the warrior challenges, or those tests that we have to go through. The second step in particular, as I understand it, is, as you described it, is, that we are listening to the drumbeat of other people. We are not being ourselves.
Yes.
We are letting, controls from the outside guide and direct our path, if I understand what you said correctly.
That's right. So by the third, you're dancing to your own drumbeat. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, setting aside the first step for the moment, because the second step is precisely what my task is right now. In the Hopi world, in the Apache world, we have what we call the teacher and the benefactor. The teacher is the individual who shows you, teaches you, and guides you, instructs you, shows you what you need to do. The benefactor is the one who tests you. In Africa, for example, a young man is taught hunting and fighting and survival skills by his teacher. However, the lion that he confronts, that's the benefactor.
Yes.
When you are in the Olympics trials, for example, your coach can teach you, show you, instruct you, and give you the right diet, but your benefactor is the one who runs next to you and puts you to the test. And one of the things that I am trying to do right now, one of my tasks, and I've accepted the role, is to say, look, when the outside world is telling you this is a golden principle of life, this is what this means, this is the truth, act like a man, act like a woman, this is this and that, what I am trying to do with my audios and my presentations is say, look, do not blindly accept what these people are telling you. I've heard far too many platitudes, far too many truisms being expressed, and all they do is frustrate you, guide you down the wrong path, and they take you away from your ability to find out what's going on inside you. And that second step is my accepted role. I want to challenge what people believe is true. Now, having said that, one of the first things I will tell you, I will tell your listeners and people who have gone to my presentations, is always put me at the top of the list of those who you challenge. Anything that I say, if I have an opportunity shortly to talk about harmony, balance, truth, male, female, all of that stuff, if I say something, challenge it, question it. You decide inside yourself whether what I am saying is true or not. This has to ring true in your soul. And I am extremely fortunate that I have had such a positive response, because I think most people know that if you look at the outside world, it isn't real. It's a fabrication. It's an illusion designed to keep you under control, to keep you frustrated, to keep you as a productive working citizen working for someone else. In our world, in the Apache world, we were told that there's a stallion inside you. And that stallion will take you anywhere you want to go, the highest mountains, the widest raging rivers, but you have to take care of that stallion. What you feed, what you put in your mouth, you're feeding that stallion inside you. You have to let that stallion run free. You have to let that stallion be a stallion. And the question becomes, who is going to guide your stallion? Who's going to be the rider? Are you going to direct that stallion of fire? Or is someone else going to hire your stallion and put it to the plow, put it in the racing derbies? Who guides your stallion of fire?
Ah, what a brilliant way of putting these things, Robert. And a good time to take a break. We're just about the top of the hour. And I'm going to play, this is a track I found in my collection. It's called Intertribal Powwow. So I don't know exactly what it sounds like, but here it is. Then should we talk more for about an hour, half an hour, maybe take a call or two at the end? Are you happy for taking calls?
Certainly, sir. I'd be happy to.
Beautiful. Right. Okay, let's go with Intertribal Powwow. This is indeed Wolf Spirit Radio, and this is JP, and this is Ever Beyond, and I'm speaking this evening with Robert Morningsky. Oh, Robert. Oh, where did we stop? We just came to a really good crescendo, and you summed it up perfectly at the end of the hour. So, where would you like to go now?
Well, with your permission, since
Absolutely.
you introduced the what you call the second ray, and I was saying that it's one of the tasks that I have accepted, if you don't mind, I'd actually like to respond to several emails questioning an audio that I had just released last week.
Sure.
On my Lady of Fire website, on my Morning Sky. I have two websites, Robert Morning Sky and Lady of Fire. And on my Morning Sky site, I released what I called My Three Sins Part 2. And in it, I discuss what I am calling sins, where I have violated golden principles of the civilized world, of the Western civilized world. And hopefully, your listeners, and you will give me some patience here, because I want to explain, I want to respond to a question.
All the time in the world, Robert. You have the floor.
Okay. I had stated in this audio that I have a problem with the expression "be true to yourself." Okay. There is an extraordinary, there's merit, there is value to that statement. However, I think people don't realize what they are saying, and that's one of the things that I want to point out. We have been given so many truisms, so many platitudes and sayings that are supposed to solve the problems of the world, and if you take them at face value, just exactly as they are expressed, they won't work. They do not work. You have to question them. You have to challenge them, because they can be quite dangerous. For example, the concept, be true to yourself. Can you apply that to every human being on the planet? If it is a truism, if it really is a golden principle of humankind, if it has merit for the entire population of this globe, then that principle should be able to be applied fairly, equally to everyone. And I do not think you can do that. Can you truly say, be true to yourself, to a serial murderer? Can you say, be true to yourself, to a child molester, to a criminal, to individuals who, for whatever reason, are possessed of these, what I would call evil there's just something inside them that is wrong. And when you say, be true to yourself, can you say that to a child molester? We recently here in the States went through this whole thing with a coach from Penn State, Jerry Sandusky. And he is in jail now for 30-plus years because he was a child molester. His claim was that he loved these boys that he molested. Can you really say, be true to yourself, Jerry Sandusky? He was, and he was committing a criminal act. A serial murderer, for whatever reason, is possessed of some sort of drive that he is insatiable. Rapists, criminals, thieves, burglars, there are people. Sometimes it's a chemical imbalance. Sometimes it's a psychological hang-up from their childhood. Who knows what these problems are? But you cannot, I believe, you cannot say, be true to yourself, period, blank, that's it, and it can be applied to every person in the world. We're taught that, we assume that that works, but it's not. You condone and you encourage rapists and child molesters when you say be true to yourself and you do not qualify it. I've received emails. Well, what about people who help other people, who help children, who help, the planet? Okay, I don't have a problem with that. What you should say, qualify it. Don't say, be true to yourself. I find that dangerous. What you should say is, if you want to help children, go do it. If you want to help the elderly, go do it. If you want to help the homeless, go do it. But I find the words, be true to yourself, condoning and encouraging child molesters. Be all that you can be is just as dangerous. I just don't believe that you can take those words, period. There needs to be a qualification. So, to those who send emails, am I against being true to yourself? I'm against that statement. Be true to yourself. Add something like, as long as you don't hurt somebody, as long as you don't commit a criminal act. Add a qualifier, because if you don't, like I say, you're encouraging and condoning these criminal activities. There's a university professor, with the greatest of respect. She's 70 years old. She is a professor at a well-known university, and she sent me an email in response to my statement, be true to yourself, I find dangerous, because it can't be applied to everyone. And this is what she said. I'm going to quote. She said, I was given some great advice once. Perhaps you will find it useful too. Quote, it really doesn't matter what we do as long as we do something. Just do your best and let God do the rest. Now, let's think about this. It really doesn't matter what we do as long as we do something. Tell me how that doesn't encourage criminal activity. Child molesters, rapists, serial murderers. It does in the way that it is expressed. And that is something that I think we need to challenge all these statements that we believe are supposed to solve the problems of the world. In the same audio, I said, look, you got to question this concept of harmony. If the world was all working in harmony, everything would be better. That's not true. Harmony is what allows corruption and crime to exist. Without going into the examples, I just really rail at these harmony solves problems. Live a balanced life. Now, I have a problem with that one. I'll give you my explanation. And again, I expect to be challenged. The word balance means equal amounts of two or more things. And I've seen so many, in my career on the speaker circuit and different conferences, people who say, you have to balance your life. If your life is balanced, everything will be fine. I believe that's incredibly wrong. You need to qualify that statement. Change it, because if you have a balanced life, it means you have equal amounts of good and bad. That's balance. If someone says, I can help you and bring balance into your life, they're telling you they can bring as much bad into your life as they can bring in good. That's the definition of balance. That's what it says. So in my 3 Sins audios, here's what I said. I hope you have a completely unbalanced life. I want unbalanced people surrounding me. I want people who are happy. I want people who are passionate. I want people who have minimal nonsense and ridiculous, evil, bad things in their life. I want an unbalanced life. I want you to be unbalanced. Now, how well is that going to go over with the gurus and the speakers of the world today? But you see, you have to look at what the word means. You can't have a happy life completely if you're in balance. You have to have an equal amount of bad. So these things that we are being told just don't work. They're going to keep you frustrated. And one last thing, because I know you want to take some questions, and I certainly would entertain it. I think the one that has been, perhaps the most thought-provoking and has inspired the most emails. I released an audio some time ago, and the question was, what constitutes a male? What constitutes a female? And I presented an audio, and I said that in the womb, in the first stages of life, every single human embryo begins as a female. That is not my idea. That's not my belief. That's not my concept. That is reality.
We're all girls together.
Yeah, okay. We are all originally females. And if it weren't for the bathing of the testosterone, all of these embryos would naturally become females. So testosterone goes in and it changes the embryo and you become a male. So my statement was, every male in this world is an altered female. Boom! I did not say that men were gay or effeminate, and then I did not in any way diminish their masculinity in the sense that, it's how you behave in society. What I said was, every male is an altered female. That is a fact. It is not a belief. It is not a concept. It is what these biologists and all these doctors, this is what they say. Okay? It's a scientific fact. It's not an opinion. Well, of course, I got a lot of emails. Oh, no, you don't understand. What counts is that there is an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. Every X chromosome is female, and if this individual has a Y chromosome, then it is a male. So they're not, we're not altered females. We have a Y chromosome. Well, all right, to begin with, 240 million, 320 million years ago, somewhere in that vicinity, every single cell was an X chromosome cell. Something happened. You know what? You can look this up in Wikipedia. Look up about the X chromosome and the Y chromosome, and it'll tell you. 300 million years ago, there were nothing but X chromosomes. Something happened. The X allele became a Y chromosome. It lost one of its arms. But let's assume that having a Y chromosome proves you're a male. Well, did you know? And I forget the society. I believe it's called the Intersex Society of North America. On their website, they put out the information that says that 1 in every 20,000 men have no Y chromosome in their genes. 1 in every 20,000 men has no Y chromosome. if Y chromosome defines a male, therefore these men who have the appropriate plumbing, they are not males. So the question again becomes, what is a male? What is a female? And I will argue that males on this planet are altered females. I did not diminish who you are. I did not attack your character. I think you're a fine individual as you are. But nevertheless, in the beginning, we were all females, and we were altered. And those are the kind of things that people need to understand. We have these blindly accepted, what we call truisms, and it doesn't hold up. I have, 24 plus audios I've released in which I try to challenge some of the concepts that we're taught. And like I said, I'm going for the jugular. I said, you know what? It doesn't make any sense. If you really think you're going to be happy because your life is imbalanced, then good. Go away. Leave me alone. Tell me to go away, and I will. I have no problem. If you think that males and females, males are actually this whole thing in and of themselves and they're not altered females, okay, that's fine. Go away. And what I am trying to do, and again, I thank you, I thank Christy and so many others who have allowed me to speak, is to say, look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you with a whole new way of thinking. And a lot of these truisms that you get, peace, harmony, love, balance, all of these things, we're accepting them, and you know what? It's not going to work. You're going to be frustrated. What you need to do is, and I'm going to use, and I apologize because I may be using it incorrectly, and so I will apologize in advance. Using your, step 2, Ray 2, I'm sorry, the second step where you have to get rid of listening to the outside world and letting it guide you. I forget what your words were, and my apologies again. We need to get rid of all of this stuff that has been foisted upon us, these burdens that are placed on us that say, act like a man, and act like a lady. Again, I have audios and I'm saying, you know what? The reason they did that was so that the men in power could control the men who were in their kingdoms and the women who were in their kingdoms. The third ray, which is I forgot how you put it, the network, the
Dark Lodge.
I call them the men of power.
Men in power.
Men of power, yes, who they're the society that tells you, this rule and that rule, and this is the way society should be, and this is the way that you should act. These are the people that created the civilized world.
Yeah.
And I rail against that. And one of the things that I hope to do is to persuade what I'm calling the ladies of fire to step forward and not let society place these rules upon you that say this is the way you have to act, this is the way you have to behave. And I'm going to do the same thing for men of fire. I said, okay, look, let's stop blindly accepting these things. We need to know what these concepts really mean, what these words are really about. There are so many parallels throughout the cultures or primitive cultures, what I love calling primitive cultures, because primitive means basically it's undomesticated, it's uncivilized, it hasn't been tainted and disciplined. In the wild world, in the primitive world. One last thing, because I know you want to have questions.
Oh, I could listen to you for hours.
Our religions, so many of our religions and our philosophies are based on what happened thousands of years ago. The Bible is supposedly the New Testament 2,000 years ago. The Old Testament maybe 3,100 years ago. So many of the other scriptures based on what happened thousands of years ago, okay? Let's assume that these individuals somehow did have a connection with the divine, whether it was through a discipline or whatever the reason, however they did it. Did they do it with technology? No. Did they do it with satellite dishes, with computers, with any sort of electronic equipment? Absolutely not. There was only one instrument that they had to make a connection with the divine, to be able to practice shamanic supernatural powers, to be able to survive in a wild world where you didn't have guns and weapons and shelters. There's only one instrument they had, and that was their body. That was their body. Their body was the drum maker, it was the art maker, it was the music maker, it was the shelter maker, it was the life maker. And the secret to to the mysteries of the universe, the secrets of the mysteries of this world, lie in the human body. And as I said earlier, the original human body, and I will argue still, was the female body. So much of the secret societies, the religions and the disciplines, the philosophies, the shamanic practices are all based upon the female body. And gentlemen, we have that body. But the point is, it's not technology, it's not science, it's not these new advances that are going to connect us with what I believe is our destiny, not in the stars, beyond the stars. That one instrument is our bodies. It's what is going on inside you. You have a fire stallion, and the question is, who's going to guide that stallion? Are you going to ride it to your fate, or is someone going to put your stallion behind its plow? Thank you, sir, for allowing me to go on and on.
Oh, perfect. That's amazing. Thank you, Robert. This is such. I'll stop going on about it. It's brilliant. Thank you. And well, perhaps we could invite some callers in. I know that there's a couple who are straining at the leash here. So yeah, there are a couple of people who are interested in calling in. So do call in to the Wolf Spirit Radio number, and I will just play that right now. There we go. There we are. We put that there. And we go like this. Call in on 1775 657 5973. That's 1775 657 5973. This is Wolf Spirit Radio. So there you go. There's the number to call into, and I'm sure that we'll be garnering a couple of calls any second now. So while we're waiting for a call, could you outline your how do people can listen to your audio podcasts, and are they on YouTube? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have websites? Do you have blogs? And do you have a news thing? News from your world?
Thank you. Yes, I have 3 primary websites that are up at the moment. I have robertmorningsky.com, and I have several audios that are posted there. There's an email connection so that you can contact me directly. I also have ladyoffire.com, in which I am posting audios and material that are much more relevant to the lost history of womankind, perhaps a little more dangerous audios. And then in regards to my ceremonies and dances and travels, I have robertbearclaw.com, where there are dozens of pictures of some of the dances, the sacred sites, the different places that I have been to, those 3. Now, again, I've only been able to get back on the air, so to speak, on the Internet just in the last few months. My day is divided between my family, working with the elders, doing the research, and posting this material. I do not have a blog, but that is intended. We are also going to be posting some of my research papers, both from the university and over the last few years. That'll be on probably a 4th site, because we have over 15,000 pages of material that I need to sort through, the elders need to approve. I do not have and I apologize because I'm ignorant, I think you said a YouTube channel, something like that?
Yeah, a YouTube channel where you post videos.
I don't know what that is, and I don't know how it works, but I would certainly look into it. There have been a lot of people who have, asked about these things, and frankly, I'm still learning about so much of this. I do have a couple of individuals who have been talking about producing some conferences. Let's see, one in Portland. Actually was talking with Christy about possibly making something happen over in her neck of the woods, and I'm hoping that will occur. My invitations to conferences have sort of tapered off because I don't believe I fit in with most of the speakers and what they are saying. But the easiest way to connect with me is either through robertmorningsky.com or ladyoffire.com. And as time permits, I'm adding more and more information. One of my favorite audios is it's about a little goldfish that lives in my library, about Mushi. I have a goldfish aquarium, and my goldfish have launched their own NASA outer space exploration program, and those are some of my favorite stories, and I highly recommend those. I want to expand on Mushi, my goldfish, in my library. But robertmorningsky.com and ladyoffire.com are the easiest ways to reach me and to listen to our present audios.
That's fantastic. That's really good. Now, somebody was wanting to connect, and I've been waiting for them, but nothing's happened yet. But do call in. Somebody called in earlier. You can call in now, and we'll be able to speak to you further. Now, that brings me to another question, which was asked in the chat room earlier, which is, you're talking about dances, and that you go to international powwows and gatherings. Are there any videos of your performances on these? YouTube is a video channel, a video website where people can upload their own version of history. So it's possible to find all sorts of very, 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 very useful information on YouTube, including how to make new energy machines and things like that.
I don't have any videos that I've posted. It's my understanding that there are videos of powwows where I have been dancing. Many of the ceremonies that I've participated in, they're closed to the public. They're closed, and perhaps just for the elders or the families. Those I don't have videos for. In fact, I don't have any stills for. I have probably hundreds of photographs of recent honorings that I can post. Again, time just simply gets away from me. But I can't even begin to think. I've done so many powwows. But I'll tell you what, if there's a request for it, I will look through our library, and maybe one of my family members can post some of our videos where they've caught me dancing. I've been in so many powwows. But if there's an interest, certainly I'll see if my family can find videos, and we'll post something.
And the other thing that everybody uses these days is called Facebook. Have you come across Facebook?
I'm not sure I know what Facebook is either about or for. What little experience I've had, people have approached me and they tell me that, they can post their history, their life, and what they're doing and all that. And and perhaps you can explain to me why that would be an advantage over a website. I have a website. I don't understand.
Yes.
Again, it's me. I have to admit, I'm rather uncivilized. I actually have to have my family explain so many of these things to me because I really don't want to understand some of the things that are going on out there. So, if there is merit to Facebook, okay, but I don't understand the popularity or the use of it.
Well, it was originally it started to be it's like a student project. They wanted to say students to communicate with each other. So because students always have their own computers and things like that. So they started by having a place where they could share photographs and just say what's going on for them. And what that's turned into is a multi-million user. To me, it's the extension of the consciousness of the planet. It is commercialized, but not to such a huge degree as it really gets in the way. Not so far, anyway. But what we love about Facebook is that it's like it's almost like telepathy. Is you can think about people and you can just go check them out. And you can see what they're doing because, say I've got a digital camera and I take a lovely sunset. I can load that from my camera into Facebook almost directly, and And then I can share the sunset that I'm enjoying with people who may be in the middle of the night in Australia or in California. So that's one of the ways that Facebook is good. But a lot of people keep in touch using it, and families keep in touch with each other, and soul families keep in touch with each other. And I think that's really the main way. It is, to look at the underbelly of it, it's partly funded by the CIA because they want to find out about everybody and da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. However, by pouring our love into this place, maybe it gives them a chance to heal as well, because it is a great... people are helping each other on Facebook. We're connecting with each other. We're trading by saying, I've got this thing. Don't anybody want my thing? And 5 people say, oh yeah, I'll have one of your things. Yeah. Oh, I'll make some more. So it's very much like it's like what you would have in a village where people live together, but people don't live together in the same place anymore. So it's kind of gone electronic, virtual. Does that make any sense?
Well, I'm sure it does. I'm not sure that I would lead much of an exciting life that anybody would want to know about. It's I don't know. You know what? I will put it in front of my family on the table and see what they think. I'm ignorant about Facebook, and I'm also ignorant of something called LinkedIn. Some people are constantly inviting me to be part of LinkedIn and other things. And one of my difficulties, one of my problems is that I'm really my day is between 18 and 20 hours long, and it's filled with anything from, I try to have time for family, research, elders, my running, my dancing, the ceremonies. And again, I think my life would probably be too boring for most people. Pictures of me sitting at my desk in the library, I don't think would draw a lot of attention. Here's the latest book I just read.
Yeah.
But at any
you actually get time to read books.
I try. I average about a book a day.
Wow.
My private library is a little over 5,000 reference books. I don't have any fiction. I take that back. I think I have 2 fiction books. 23, I stand corrected. I have 26 dictionaries. I just got 3 new ones. An Irish dictionary, and I'm hoping to learn a little bit there. But yes, I think my day, a good portion of it is in the library, reading through these books, these studies, perusing some of the studies, science papers on the internet. And also, there are some people that say, oh, I should, read this other person's work, and it's so similar in what you're doing. And I actually don't like to read other people's work. If it's similar, there's nothing to be gained. And in the past, I have to say, in the past, I did read other people's work, and I sent the material, and we exchanged. And as I said very early on, I found them, stealing my work and things. So I'm not quite a hermit, but my day's pretty busy with just the stuff that I need to do, and I thank everybody for their input and their ideas, and I'm still learning. I'm a novice. I'm uncivilized, and I only learned. I think I took my first internet and sent my first email on in May of this year.
Wow!
It was the first time I ever. True story. And then it took me a couple of months to find out what junk mail was. True story. So I'm learning all these things. I just within the month learned what interline banking is, internet banking. Mm-hmm. I promise you, this is all new to me. I've always depended on my family to do these things, and now I think, well, I better learn how to do some of these things. And so I'm really, truly a novice at this, so I will thank you for the thoughts and the ideas. I just need to learn how to do it and find the time, to be frank.
Oh, it might be a nice little task for one of your younger members of the family, because 15, 16, 17-year-olds are really like experts at this kind of thing. They're experts at
amazing.
Facebook. Yeah, and
they're amazing at what they can do with a computer. I'm still learning. Like I said, it's just amazing what they can do, and I'm impressed. I feel I'm so far behind. All I can do is, delve and stay in the ancient wisdoms and hope that their new technology and their wisdoms of what goes on in this world, that somehow we can put them together and and we're learning, we're succeeding, we're having a good response. I'm thankful for that.
Well, that's wonderful, and it's great to actually hear that there are people who don't sit all day on Facebook watching people post things and like everybody else is. Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody has Facebook open while they're listening to this show, and there's things going backwards and forwards, and one of the things that Facebook is doing for us is giving us a grandstand on the great collapse that is happening at the moment. You were talking about Jerry Sandusky.
Yes.
In Britain, right now, there is a character, his name is Jimmy Savile, and he died last year. But the whole sordid network of his paedophilia and the fact that he was a procurer for some of the higher echelons, and he was very famous, really famous, glittery guy, and he always wore bright colours and smoked a big cigar. And turns out, he was among the a huge abuser. Young girls all over Britain, maybe all over the world, but certainly. But at the same time, he would go to children's homes and disabled children's homes and mental prisons. And they gave him a room. He had his own room there. He was very powerful. And the people that are connected with him, very famously were connected with him, like one of our ex-prime ministers, Edward Heath, and other famous people in the media who were like actors and comedians and things like that. They're all turning out to be connected with this guy too. And also the royal family, and Prince Charles is also very closely connected with him. And so this may rip the whole facade of what you, in quotes, call civilization. And I understand exactly how you feel.
Well, yes, and what you have just told me, and what has happened here in the States with Jerry Sandusky, those make two of the points that I have contended, that I have challenged. The whole concept of working in harmony. This gentleman that you were just talking about could not have succeeded, could not have abused and hurt all those young children if he hadn't been working in harmony with, as you say, comedians and actors and possibly other politicians. There was a harmonious working together that allowed this criminal activity to take place. And harmony is not this wondrous thing everybody says it is. There is a dark side to it. There is a black side to it. And you cannot, can you honestly say that this man was not being true to himself? Of course he was. And so when you say, be true to yourself, sir, you be true to yourself, Mr. Sandusky, you're breaking two of the principles that we're supposed to believe solve the problems of the world. Harmony and being true to yourself. Both of those things allowed that activity to occur in your country, and it's allowed those things to happen here. So we cannot blindly accept these principles without qualifying them. We need to be much more careful in the words that we use. And that's what I'm trying in my audios to talk about, and with you and Christy and the others, and say, you have to challenge what is being said. And again, let me repeat, put me at the top of the list. Put me at the top of the list. But harmony, balance, be true to yourself, peace, love, all those things that were supposed to be panaceas that solve the problems, they are only going to cause you problems if you take them at face value and don't question or challenge. We need to be careful in the words that we use. So, I thank you, because that your example justifies what I have been arguing against. It just doesn't work.
Exactly. I had a really good thread just then. It's gone away. All right, I'm sure it'll come.
Apologies about that.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things is from the chat room. You were saying, when you were talking about that you don't have Facebook and all that stuff, and one of them says, yeah, he's better off. So you realize that, you recognize that you're.
I'm sorry, what was the word? What was it said?
That you were better off not having Facebook.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know that I would have the time to be able to do as you're saying. I mean, I really, every moment is precious, and I appreciate the concept. If I thought that it would help help the elders and I in what we are doing, then and find the Lady of Fire, absolutely. But thank you.
So
I think I am better.
Let's go back to just exactly what you just said. And that is to find the ladies of fire, the lady of fire, the ladies of fire.
Yes, sir.
And the inner fire you're talking about, yeah?
Yes, I mean, very briefly, and I want to mention there are two extraordinary women that I've been reading about that I have to give them kudos. It is Julia Gillard, the Prime Minister in Australia, who made her speech about misogyny in front of the world. It's a phenomenal speech, and I give her a lot of credit. And I also want to, and I'm going to dance for her. I'm going to continue to dance for her. Malala Yousafzai. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Malala, the young girl in Pakistan who was writing the blog, and she got shot in the head, and she was protesting the prohibition of young girls being given an education. These are two women who have stood up, and they're going to pay a price. And I hope Ms. Gillard continues in her position, and I hope Malala gets better. I'm sure that she will. But in a very brief few moments here, science has admitted, astronomers, astrophysicists, and others have admitted that the universe that we live in, as best as they can surmise, as there's astronomical studies and everything, they admit that fully 96% of the universe that we live in, they cannot see it, they don't know what it is, they don't know anything about it, it is a complete unknown. Essentially, the world, the universe that we can see, that we live in, constitutes only 4% of the universe. And even that is a misnomer, because in that 4%, that universe that we can see, only 2% is made of solid material. Everything else is hydrogen and helium. And I have argued in the past that we live in this 4% world. We are mortals in a 4% world. There is a 96% out there that is completely unknown. It is what I would suggest is probably as close to what's called in shamanic circles as the other world, the spirit world, the soul world, whatever, there are numerous words, and at this point I just simply say that it's a 96%. But astronomers and physicists are saying that, it's out there, which is really inaccurate, because in their studies, when they release them, they say that 96% is right here. It's right next to us. It's inside of us. We are walking around. Our 4% existence is surrounded and completely pervaded by this 96% world, this unknown thing. And I will argue from shamanic principles, and the Samsia elders are saying, that this other 96% unknown is, maybe that's the soul, the spirit, the breath, I don't know what to call it, the animus. That is the other part of us. That is what allows us, if we can draw on the 96% that is inside us, and I'm going to call it fire, but if we can draw on that 96% fire that's inside us, we can do what is impossible in the 4% world. The history of shamanism has shown that women are the most powerful practitioners, the masters of being able to interact with the 96% that is inside them and that is outside of them. And one of the things that I was hoping to do with my Lady of Fire is to help inspire women to say, look, you know what? Stop focusing on the 4% world. Men will focus on 4% careers and 4% houses and 4% cars and 4% money, 4% golf club memberships, etc., etc. But it's the 96% that is what we should be looking at. And the 96% is that fire that lets you do the impossible. Now, what is the impossible? Well, look in any science book, and I'm sure that you've probably done the same thing in your studies, things that are called, that you and I and others would call psychic abilities, paranormal abilities. They're impossible. sorcery, shamanism, they're impossible. Scientists tell us they don't work because they're looking for 4% solutions to a 96% phenomenon. If I told you some of the things that have occurred to us when I've been doing some of the circles, when I've been doing some of the honorings, there are things that happen that are impossible. I have photographs of little lights that shouldn't be there, of things that shouldn't be there, of on and on and on. But the point is that when we look for 4% solutions, that's what we're going to get, is a 4% solution. The answer lies in the 96. How can a scientist say magic does not occur? Because there's no evidence of it in the 4% world. Yet if you look at quantum mechanics, they talk about these quantum particles that pop in and out of existence, virtual photons that appear out of nowhere and then they disappear. All of these things, totally theoretical. But in science, if a photon appears out of nowhere, that's science. But if a rabbit appears out of nowhere, that's magic. That doesn't exist. Scientists are limited to a 4% perspective. And as long as we look for 4% solutions in our lives, we're never going to connect with the fire, the stallion of fire, the fire inside us. It's going to take us beyond the stars. And the women that are out there, somewhere out there right now, there is a woman who has, whether she knows it or not, an innate ability to connect with the 96%. She's going to get up from her chair, she's going to walk outside, and she's going to do something that is absolutely impossible. She's going to levitate a rock, she's going to make the car go around the block by itself, she's going to, all of a sudden, dinner will appear on the table and she never touched it. That's impossible. And that's the wonder of 96. Stop looking for 4% solutions. 96%, the impossible, is where we should be looking, and that's what I hope to do with the Lady of Fire audios and that. You know, one of the things that I have enjoyed so much in my life is to be able to refer to myself as a nobody. And I say that with great pride. When you become a somebody, for example, in the Hopi world when I was raised, we were taught that the minute you describe yourself in any term, you've put a corral around yourself. For example, I am an artist. Boom, I have created a corral around myself. I can't be a physicist, I can't be a pharmacist, I can't be a carpenter. I am an artist. I put a corral on myself. If I define that even further, I am an artist of oil painter. Corral gets smaller. I am a 40-year-old artist. I'm smaller corral. The more terms we use to define ourselves, the smaller the corral becomes around us. The only way that I was taught that you should describe yourself, I am nobody. Now, what is the corral there? There is none. None at all. And the wonder of this that I learned in my later years, who does the impossible? Nobody. Who is going to solve the mysteries of the universe? Nobody.
Yes.
And that's, to me, it's like, I love it. I am a nobody. And to be quite honest with you, I don't have psychic abilities. I don't have these phenomenal skills. I really don't have any exceptional abilities. I work hard. That I will grant you. I work very hard in what I do. The dancing, the research, and my presentations, I work hard. But I don't have the skills and the abilities that so many other people, as yourself and so many others do. I don't. So and I don't have any status, and I don't have any authority, I don't have any position, and I like that. I am hopefully relatively anonymous. I can go anywhere and do anything because I am nobody. But my future looks wondrous because if the impossible will be accomplished, it will be by nobody. So the answers are in the 96. They're not in our 4% world. They're in the 96. And ladies, you're the ones. You're the ones that have the best opportunity to mix with that 96, to pull it out of yourself, to pull it out. Oh my goodness, if a man ever had a lady of fire, she would exhaust him, she would leave him in the dust. Ladies, you do not ever settle. You must have a man of fire. In the Hopi world, you know what a man of fire is? He does the cooking, he does the sewing, he takes care of the kids, he does the laundry, he takes care of the house. He provides everything that is necessary in that house because she has the most difficult task of all. Her task is to become a bright dancing star in the skies. And a man of fire provides that spark. He provides the opportunity and that explosion, that spark that sends her flying into the heavens. And when she becomes a bright dancing star, she will reach down and she will bring her loved ones up with her. Ladies, you deserve to be dancing stars. You should be dancing stars. Reach for it. Go beyond the 4%. Reach for the impossible. Because if anyone's going to do it, you are.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. And this is what I wanted to say earlier, is that I believe that listening to the show right now, there are a good few ladies of fire, a good handful. As you know, as I said, I know quite a few of them personally who are listening, and they're very intelligent, they're very capable, they're very strong, and yeah, take note. It's not for us to tell you to go out and do things, but listen to Robert.
I hope that they will tune into the Lady of Fire website as I continue to put more. Ladies, I will share all that I can with you. I will help. I will be there. But you have to make the choices. You have to take the lead. The future of humankind does not lie in the hands of men. The future of humankind, the destiny and the fate of humankind lies in the hands of women. If I can in any way help a woman or a group of women to learn their lost history, because you have to know where you came from before you can know where you're going. But whatever you do, let go of this 4% world. Yes, we have to survive, and yes, we have to live here. I understand that. But it takes a tremendous amount of will, a tremendous amount of determination, and an open mind that says, you know what? Whatever that truism was that was in that sacred book, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It really doesn't. And all I can hope I can do, and again, thank you very, very much, sir, for allowing me to be with you, is to give you some ideas and to give you the lost history and say, look, this is your legacy. This is where you came from. Take it and run with it. I will help you. I will show you. I will give you everything that I can. But you have to do it. I can't. So, Lady of Fire, please, ladyoffire.com if you can. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. I'm sure that half of them are already over there. Robert, would you come back? There's so many, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that. I'd love to. I'd love to talk about the Ladies of Fire. I'd love to talk about the hidden history of humanity and female and the divine feminine. That's definitely up my street. Would you come back, please?
Yes, sir. I would be honored to. I mean, like I said, I have over 15,000 pages of material that the elders are reviewing, and we have several hundred we have yet to release. And with you and Christy and the others, yes, absolutely, sir. If you find any merit in what I have said, I would be very honored. I would, yes, sir, please.
We have an ability. We're a very discerning crew here. We've been through all the disinformation, and we've got some good tools for discernment and discrimination. And one of the tools is that we can feel it resonate. And everything in that you've said in the last 2 hours absolutely resonated. Everybody feels, that you're authentic and genuine and integrated and speaking the truth. So yes, more Robert Morningsky, it says here. Oh, yes, with Rebecca is having you on this Thursday from 7 to 9 Central Time, 5 to 7 Pacific.
Yes, that's correct. Rebecca she was ill last week, and she's asked me back on, and I thank her very much. And I want to thank you your words are very kind. I appreciate that, and I'm just glad that a little bit of it made sense. And
know that you're loved and respected, sir.
You're very kind. Thank you, sir.
Robert Morningsky, this has been Beyond the Beyond. Thank you very much for coming on Ever Beyond, and yes, we hope to have you back on Ever Beyond, and you'll be carrying on the Journeys with Rebecca on Thursday. I will be on Journeys with JP on Tuesday, and I will be speaking with I think it's Emberly McCulloch. Let me just check. Today is there, the 20th. Oh no, is it? Yes. I'll be speaking with Stephen Whiteside, who's talking about Earth's natural energy and ley lines. That's Tuesday at 12 PST, 8 p.m. UK time. And so, to the listeners of Wolf Spirit Radio, this is Wolf Spirit Radio, and this is the end of my show. Good night. Beyond.